Blockchains are bad for the environment, and a dollar for every time I heard that statement over dinner. But is that really true? That is what we're going to look at today. It is true that some systems have a terrible environmental footprint, but some don't, and this is the future where we are heading towards. So we're going to look at three different things. First, a little detour on how blockchains work, very roughly, so don't worry about that. Then the second piece is going to be the different ways of how information on a blockchain can be validated, which is extremely important. And then finally, what you need in order to launch something on an environmentally friendly blockchain. Okay. Now, before we dive into this, a little bit of a backstory of why I'm doing this video. I recently talked to an artist who does amazing work, the old-fashioned way, I think. So she's using watercolor, pencil, and so on. Let's call her Rachel. So I actually don't know if she's okay with me mentioning her profile. So, but I will ask, and if you see her Instagram link in the video description, sorry, that's her. So we chatted a little bit about an idea, and at some point I suggested that we could also basically turn her piece into an NFT, right? Which I'm sure you know is running on a blockchain. And so to me, she always seemed like a really down-to-earth person. So I kind of knew what was coming, right? But she's not only down to earth, but also open-minded. So she, although she was not happy about this
idea, I think in the beginning,
she asked me to explain a few things about NFTs and environmental blockchains, and so that's when I hit record for this video. Now let's get back into the subject. As I said in the beginning, there are some blockchain ecosystems which are almost neutral to the environment. And when I say neutral, I'm not talking about a 50% reduction in energy consumption, but literally almost neutral. Okay, so it's then almost pretty much the same as a normal server that you're using on a daily basis. You're using many of those actually, but actually right now you're using a bunch of these. And a blockchain doesn't have to be more environmentally costly than that. Now, of course, you're probably not going to believe me just yet. And to understand the issue of energy consumption, we first need to understand how blockchain works in general. So that takes me to the first part, how blockchains work. Now, let's actually pull out a drawing board, and I've prepared a little something. I'm really hoping that this works as I plan. So let's make me smaller. Here we are. So I'm back. Okay, so I think you should still be able to see me all right. All right, so the first thing that you would need to understand about blockchains is that it's basically a decentralized database. Okay, so you probably know that a database can be on basically your laptop, right, which is just a hard drive and it has some information on it. And the special thing about a blockchain is that this information doesn't sit just on a single computer, but it's actually, this is annoying. So it's actually sitting on several computers at once. And the main purpose of this database is to record transactions between different actors, which can be computers or people that are using a computer. Okay, so let's make this a bit more practical and take the simple example from our artist Rachel, who would like to get paid by me for maybe a piece of art. Okay, so if we look at this, what are the options? So she can go with cash. She can go with like a bank transfer or PayPal, which is pretty much the same thing. Or she can go with a token transfer through the blockchain. Okay. I haven't. I need to update my writing skills. That looks well. Okay. So let's go with these three options. Okay. So now cash is fairly simple, right? But what if that's not possible? Then we would usually involve a bank transfer, right? So now, if we examine the main purpose of that bank, it is really to validate this transaction that has taken place between Rachel and myself. Okay, so let's say that she has handed a piece of art to me, and she would like to get paid in return, right? So we can do this kind of agreement, but in order for this to work without cash involved or somebody watching, we need to have a bank, right? And obviously these guys are gonna take a commission, right? So in normal payment transfers, of course, this is no longer the issue. But now imagine that Rachel and I are not sitting in the same country, but maybe I'm sitting in Germany where I'm based, and she is, for instance, in Kenya, right? Now, if I wanted to send money to her, this would get extremely costly, right? Because there are all kinds of services, but they're still asking for a lot of money, right? Because you're routing it through different systems and so on. Now, this is a little bit complicated, right? And now the great benefit of these blockchains is that you don't necessarily need to have like I don't know, you don't really need permission, right? So right now you could go on your computer, get yourself a wallet, and then you can get yourself some tokens, right? And then you can use your local bank in order to pay this out. Okay. Now let's think about actually why this. Let's get back to the question of how blockchains are actually working. So if we think back at this cash example here, so then what would usually would happen is either Rachel gives me a receipt, right? So she writes something down on a piece of paper, or something that's even more simple is that I bring a friend and ask him or her to witness me handling the money over to her, right? It really doesn't get any easier than this. And blockchains work pretty much in the same way, except that the witnesses are computer programs that are validating that a transaction has actually taken place, okay? And to validate a transaction, however, you need to have lots and lots of computers for security, right? Because you can hack a few computers, but you can't really hack a few thousand. And those computers need to have some kind of reward, but we will get back to this reward in just a moment. And this is roughly the introduction to blockchains, right? Now, let's get to part two, the different ways how information on a blockchain can be validated. First, let's talk about the two ways of how this can actually work. Now, there is one mechanism that is called, let's actually open up a new page here, that is called proof of work. And let's do POW. And the other one is called proof of stake. Okay, and there are other mechanisms, but these are quite common ones. Now, I'm not going to go into the very details of both mechanisms. This is really a subject for another video. I'm going to be adding a few links to the description if you want to dig deeper, and also feel free to ask me any questions in the comment section. But simply put, proof of work is the way how many of the older systems work. So Bitcoin, the current version of Ethereum, and a few others. And the way this validation is done is through so-called, in the case of proof of work, is through so-called miners solving complex mathematical puzzles. Okay, they're called hashes. And by doing so, they are literally digging out a secret through which a new block can be created. Okay. Now, this is where the term mining actually comes from, right? So they're basically, randomly going through different combinations of, letters and and numbers, and ultimately they're going to come up with a combination that unlocks the next block, and for this they get rewarded with this token. Okay. And this then is also the incentive for people to do this in the first place, right? This is why they're building huge warehouses full of servers, like specialized computers actually, to perform this kind of computation. Now, while this method is relatively secure and tested, it is incredibly costly in terms of computing power, which also means that the energy consumption is very, very high. And that is why many systems are using something different, and that is called proof of stake. Now, I think I should have started drawing here a little bit by now, but I guess we might as well do it now. So proof of stake basically means that, let's say John wants to become a validator, and Gary also wants to become a validator, right? And so they both need to have a little bit of skin in the game. So you want them to want to play correct, right? So they both need to put up, let's say, 30 Ethereum, right, which is, or 30 ETH, which is the native currency on the Ethereum network. Bad example, because at the moment it's actually not proof of stake, but let's take it like that. So what now happens is these are gonna get selected at random, right? And it's not just John and Gary, obviously. There's lots and lots of people that are involved in this, and they are essentially bidding in a way and get randomly selected to validate certain blocks and transactions that have taken place. And to do for doing that, they actually get a reward from the people that are doing these transactions, which is then the incentive to get involved with this in the first place. Now, there's also an incentive to pay correctly, and that is if, you know, let's say there's a few others of these guys in here, and John is actually submitting information that is incorrect. This actually gets his take essentially gets taken away from him. Okay, and therefore there's also not only an incentive to play in the first place, but also to play correctly. Okay. Now, one of the major benefits is that there is very little energy required to simply look at a transaction and ticking it off, as opposed to solving a mathematical puzzle. And this is pretty much all there is to it already. That's really the main difference between these two systems. And sorry for not drawing this. It's not so interesting to draw hashes, though. Now, that already takes us to the third part, and the question: what you need in order to launch something on an environmentally friendly blockchain. But before we get into this, just a kind request: this channel is just getting started out, and I would highly appreciate if you give it a like if you like this video. Obviously, you're also warmly invited to subscribe, but you don't have to. Either way, I'm much appreciated. Now, with that out of the way, let's get back to Rachel. So let's say she wants to turn her art into a digital item or into an NFT, so that she can sell it to somebody and owners can carry it around, show it to somebody. They can see who owned it before if they want to. And also Rachel can see all this information, which can be neat, right? Maybe she doesn't care, but for some people, this is important, right? And actually in the art space, this is one of the most important pieces of information that you can have, right? So a Monet is pretty much worth something because you can trace it back to the artist pretty almost entirely. I'm not sure if it's Monet, but like that's the general mechanism how this works. Now, during our conversation, one of the things she asked was how to actually get on an environmentally friendly NFT, how to create this. And her question was whether she would need a particular program to get it done. And the precise answer to this is yes, you do need a program. But I think what she actually wanted to know was whether she had to know how to write a program. And to that, the answer is no. But you do need to have some technical savviness. And for that reason, I'm not. I don't want to make this. How long are we? I don't want to make this video into something that goes on forever. But if you want to dive a little bit deeper into this, if you want to go through a practical example, you can either take a look at the links in the description, or you can also ask me in the comment section, and I'm happy to do another video on it if you're interested. Now. Again, I'm giving you a few links so that you can dig for yourself. One of the blockchains that I actually find quite interesting in that regard is called Avalanche. And but there are also other networks that are using this proof of stake mechanism. And they usually have all this infrastructure so that you can get started with relatively little knowledge. Now, just to to finish this off, as I said, there are other blockchains that are already using this mechanism. But before you leave here with false information, also keep in mind that Ethereum is actually switching from the proof of work to a proof of stake mechanism in the future. And of course, this is all a response to all kinds of problems, not only energy consumption, but that is certainly one of them. Now, I really hope that this clarified some things. Rachel, if you're seeing this, I hope I hope this gives rise to a few more questions. So yeah, really hope that this was informative, and looking forward to see you again. Bye bye.